What's up, guys? Jeff Lewis here from Lewis Physical Therapy and Sports Rehab. I want to go over today really how we go about this. Is a non-injured, healthy population, setting up essentially a training session structure. Because there's a couple different ways you can go about it, and what I will say is it is not a one-size-fits-all approach. Different things work for different guys, but in general, this is what I have found to be pretty helpful for a lot of the high school athletes that we program for. So whenever we're looking at training structure, we have to take into account all the variables that we're really trying to accomplish. I don't have it up here, but the sport itself, conditioning, explosive plyos, medicine ball throws, the main lifts, accessory work, and then any other kind of restorative means that we have in there. And we'll kind of actually put that at the bottom here. The bottom is going to be restorative. Okay, restorative means. All right, so starting off more than anything, the first thing we're always going to get out of our way is, especially if we have any sprinting, but really any on-feet, really any on-feet type of conditioning more than anything, whether it's, sprinting, tempo work, even some off-feet, if you have like bike sprints, maybe do those at the end, but generally all on-feet stuff we want to get done at the beginning, mainly because if we do plyos, explosive throws, compound lifts, all this stuff, the lower body is going to be in a pretty fatigued and pre-fatigued state. The last thing you want to do is go rip off some sprints and worry about pulling a quad or a hamstring. So starting off, good dynamic warm-up could be just 2 to 3 minute kind of brisk jog. Then you're going through lunges, reaching RDLs, hamstring sweeps. Then you kind of get into some mock drills, or really just more like your kind of mechanical drills. So A skips, B skips, A switches, pogos, scissors if you're doing some high-speed running. That's where a lot of that comes into play there. And then after that, then we're going to get into our sprint work. And kind of going back to the drills here, like a little bit of that. Like if I have a day where I'm doing more change of direction work, I'm going to have some more change of direction work in my warm-up versus if it's kind of high-speed linear running, I'm going to have some more just really like linear-based higher effort drills in the beginning, okay? So we're going into our sprint work, our tempo work. We're going to get that out of the way. Next, we're going to go into if we have any explosive plyometrics or medicine ball throws, whether this is broad jumps or explosive shot put throws. We're going to do these relatively early on in the session. Now, what I will say is, while I do these as kind of individually with some guys, it's also not unlikely to kind of mix them into your compound lifts, but we'll kind of come back to that. So going into the first one here for your main compound lifts, this could be whether you have back squat, deadlift, bench, cleans, overhead press, really your main like barbell-based movements where you can really push weight, push load, get a good hormonal response. That's what's going to be here. Now, what I will say is, say you have power cleans and you have back squats. If your back squat is the main thing you're pushing that day, so let's just say you're going for like singles or doubles at 90, 92% for back squats and whatnot, but you're only going at like, 60, 65% for some power cleans. You might do your squats first and then do your power cleans or your plyos after. I don't always go like that. I still personally like to get my, any Olympic lifts done at the beginning for me personally and just for preference from a programming standpoint, because it's such a technical lift that even to get the fatigue from back squats to go into there is going to be challenging to do right after that, okay? So that's some compound lifts. Now, coming back to this up here, what we can do is, say we have a back squat, say we have 2 plyos where we got a back squat and then a broad jump or any other plyo like that. We could go 2 ways about that. We can do the broad jump alone over here where that's the only stimulus we have. We don't have to worry about doing anything else from a fatigue standpoint that's going to interact with the broad jump, or we can have the broad jump be done right after a set of back squats. And that's going to give us some type of potentiation effect. And really, potentiation is just another way where we are trying to get a lot higher force output for a plyometric drill. So, easiest way to go about that, think about that. You have 2 boxes. The first box is heavy. You go to pick it up, you really have to grind through it. You go to then the next box, and you expect it to be heavy, but you go to pick it up, and with the same effort and force, and it's really light, and you nearly fall back. It's such a fast and powerful movement. That's very much what we're trying to get at when we do this. Essentially, we kind of back up a heavy compound movement with a plyo. So that's definitely an option there, and I'll do that with guys. Or it could be the other option is, if we're looking at explosive medicine ball throws in the thrower, let's just say you're doing a heavy set of landmine presses, and then you're going to go into a shot put throw. Okay, so same thing. You get a heavy set of your landmine press in, and then you back it up with a shot put throw to really get a lot more of a power-based or higher force output rather for that explosive medicine ball throw. Okay, so those are 2 options you have there. It's a bit athlete dependent. If you have an athlete they're kind of doing this stuff for the first time, I would probably recommend doing them alone at first, just so that way they don't have to worry about any accumulated fatigue from a compound movement that's then going to affect their technique more. Just really get them essentially familiar with the drill. Okay, so that's one way you can go about that. Now, after that, we go on to our accessory work. In general, I don't like to go any more than five exercises for accessory work. We want to try to get in what the basics that we need, and that'll depend a little bit different whether we're doing total body or upper lower body splits. But that in general, like, is what we're looking at, and that could be an upper push, a lower pull. You could have some groin work in there, some glute work, some core work, which I think you should. So the accessory work is kind of hitting on all the smaller muscle groups, especially if you have a specific injury history that's going to dictate a lot of what your kind of training program looks like. That's you're going to hit a lot in your accessory work. And just in general, it's going to be like lifts historically that you're not going to hit for a heavy set of 2. Like, no one's going to hit a heavy set of lateral raises for 2 reps. Like, that's not going to happen. So, and then after that is going to be some restorative means, whether that is, some type of tissue work or, recovery boots, a light biking, it really could be whatever it is. And that alone could be on its own day more than anything. But this is a general way to look at how we go about structuring a training session, really for any athlete, certainly for a younger athlete with not training age. They're not going to maybe have these plyos and explosive med ball throws. They're going to be more extensive, and it might be more of a circuit-based routine instead of like kind of individually broken up. But that's a general way that we'll look about that. And again, there's not just one, like all things in, especially in PT, performance, and in life, there's not just one specific way to only do things. There's multiple different ways to achieve a goal. Many roads lead to Rome. And you want to make sure that at the end of the day, whether it's for yourself, you're trying to find the best method that works for you, or from a coaching standpoint, the best method that works for your athletes. And we try to leave our bias we try to leave our bias for our own personal routines, at the door. I even like the way I program for myself, I don't really program for athletes, mainly because there's different ways that I found my body responds. Like, I don't respond great to high volume training, but for a younger athlete, higher volume training is a very good way to stack on some muscle mass. So it kind of really just comes down to what athlete you're dealing with, what kind of athlete you're dealing with, what sport, and a lot of other factors like that. So that's a general way you can look at how to structure a training session. If you have questions on that, leave your comments below, or leave your questions in the comment section below, or go ahead and like our channel to follow more content like this.